Hello, hello, my lovely fourth graders. This is our Wednesday lesson, okay, for math. We are talking about changing a decimal and writing it as a fraction, especially focusing on place value. So, before we get going with some examples and practice problems, I want to review a very important concept that we've definitely touched on, but I want to make sure you guys are really solid with this. So, I'm going to show you my board. I want you to pause and look at it for a second. If you can, write down the answers to everything we'll quickly review. You guys know the drill by now. Okay, here we go. Look at the board here. We're going from 1 to 5. I have denominators here, okay, and then blank spots. I want you to think to yourself, okay, what belongs in the numerator here? And again, this is 1 is equal to this, which is also equal to this. We're talking about some equivalent fractions. Okay, let me pause. Okay, let's go over this together. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks now. That 1 whole is the same thing as 10 tenths, which then means, right, that 1 whole is the same thing as 100. 100ths. You may notice that all we really did there was multiply our numerator and denominator by 10. Now, that first one was probably easy for you. Let's go on to this next one. I actually am just going to double these numerators here. So if 1 is equal to 10 tenths, then 2 must be equal to 20 tenths, which then means that 3 wholes is going to be equal to 30 tenths. Are you sensing a pattern yet? 4 is going to be 40 tenths, and 5 is 50 tenths. You'll notice these are all improper fractions because all of these numbers, this is a whole, right? All of these are greater than 1. That's what an improper fraction is, you guys. Okay, now let's do the hundredths here. Just like we doubled 10 to get 20 for 2 wholes, we're going to double 100, so we get 200 100ths is equal to 2. 300 100ths is equal to 3, or 30 tenths. Okay, 400 hundredths is equal to 4, and finally there should be a pattern that you've caught on to here. 500 hundredths is equal to 5. If you wrote this down, keep it next to you and as notes to maybe help you out a little bit as we go through this. Okay, it's a quick review. We're talking about equivalent fractions. Let me set this down. Hold on. I've got 4 whiteboards that I'm working with. So, okay, now we're going to talk through some steps that you're going to take to go from a decimal to a fraction. Okay, this is what I'm going to call the long way. And the reason I'm doing a long way first is to fully explain all of the steps and what my thinking is, the concept of it all. Then we'll go into a faster way. And remember, I show you guys different ways to do math because everyone's brain works differently. You choose the way that you want to approach this, the one that works best for your brain, and that is the strategy that you should use. So here's our long way, and I call it that just because it takes a little bit more time, and that's okay. Here we go. The decimal you're starting with for the long way is 0.15, or 15 hundredths. Now, we're going to break this down by place value as part of our long way. You can see that I have our tenths place is in orange here, and the hundredths place is in red. So what I'm first going to do is break this down by place value. So I have 1 in the tenths place, so I know that it's 0.15 is 1/10 plus what's in the hundredths place, a 5. So it's 1/10 plus 5 100ths. But here's the problem. We can't actually add those 2 fractions together because you have to have a common denominator. So just like what we practiced when we went 1 through 5 here, what is 1/10 the same as? Okay, think about it. We're going to multiply it by 10. 10 times 10 is 100. 1 times 10 is 10. So 1/10 is the same as 10 hundredths, right? Because if I were to write it, hold on just a second, write it like this, okay? There's like that invisible zero kind of sitting there. Always, always. Now, we're going to keep our 500ths the same because we already had that going for us. Now, let me erase this so you don't get confused. Can we combine 10 hundredths and 500ths? The answer should be, yeah, you absolutely can. And guess what? We get 15 hundredths as our final answer. I hope that you got this too, okay? This is a pretty simple one, but breaking it down can be really helpful with place value. And if you want to use different colors like I did, that can help too. So that's our long way, looking at it by place value. But there is another way to look at this. Oh, actually, before we do the other way, I forgot to tell you that on Khan, they might be asking you to find a simpler version, like a simplified version. So when we simplify, or we can also call it reduce a fraction, basically what we're doing is finding common factors, okay, so that you can make it a smaller denominator, okay, and then the numerator gets smaller too, because it's just easier to understand a fraction. So it's kind of like when we have 8/16. That's also the same as 1/2. Thinking about 1/2 is a lot easier to understand than thinking about 8/16, right? So think of another number, 24/48. That would reduce down to 1/2 because 24 is half of 48. That's kind of what we're doing. So we're actually going to take our answer from that long way example, 15 hundredths, and reduce it. Let's think here. So it's called reducing. Ooh, we're simplifying, some dust on there. 15 100ths. What can I divide by? It has to be the same number on the bottom and the top. What does that have in common? Well, I know because of my multiplication facts that if a number has a 5 or a 0 at the end of it, that it's divisible, okay, or a common factor of it, is 5, right? Okay, so if we do 15 hundredths divided by 5 fifths, 5/5. Okay, remember, we're not really changing this number. It's not a different amount. We're just changing it because we're technically dividing by 1 here. Remember, 5/5 is the same thing as 1. Anyhow, let's divide across our numerators first. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay. 100 divided by 5 is, ooh, I count by 5. Let's see. 20, 40, 60, 20. We get 3 20ths, okay? That's a little bit easier for my brain to process than 15 hundredths, right? You could think of a pizza with 100 pieces or a pizza with 10 pieces, or 20 pieces, I mean, that would make a lot more sense. Anyhow, this is the simplified or the reduced version of this fraction, okay? Now we are going to move on into our quicker way. Basically, you're just inspecting the number, okay? You're looking at it, thinking about the place value, and then there's some quick steps that I'm going to show you. Okay, so if you want to take notes on this, I'm going to hold up the my board, and you can pause and write them down. I'm going to talk you through them as well, so it's kind of up to you what you do. Here are our steps. I'm going to read them. Number 1 says check your place value. 2 says the decimal is the numerator. 3, place value that you determined is the denominator. And then number 4 says any number to the left of the decimal point, any of those numbers are going to be whole numbers. So let's talk about, oh wait, actually if you want to write that down, pause. Okay. Here are problems that we are going to work on. The first 3 I'm going to do, and then I'm going to send you off for a second to do these bottom 2. So let me get a color here. How about red? We're going to go through these steps to write these decimals as fractions. So first I have 0.07 or 700. So I'm checking my place value. I see that we are in the hundredths place. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in mind. The decimal is a numerator. So my decimal, the only number I see here, okay, that's to the right of the decimal point, is 7. That's my numerator up, remember? So there's my 7 as my numerator. Number 3, the place value, which I know is hundredths, is the denominator, down. So I get 7 hundredths. See there? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Here's a new one. 2.1 or 2 1/10. Let's check the place value. I see there that it's tenths. Okay, what's my numerator going to be? Well, the decimal is a 1. So I know that I have 1. My place value is the denominator, 10th. Okay. And then number 4 comes into play here, the step 4, because there is a number to the left of the decimal point. What's that whole number? It's a 2. So this answer is 2 and 1/10. 2 and 1/10. Okay. Last one that I'm going to do for you is 0.4 or 4/10. Let's go through our steps. Check place value. That's the 10th. Oops. The 10th place. My decimal number is the numerator. Well, that's a 4. The place value is the denominator. I already said that's 10th. So my answer, because there's no number to the left of the decimal point, is 4 tenths. Okay. I have to erase the board really quick. Your practice problems on your own that you're going to pause and do, okay, are these. Writing them as fractions. Okay, the first is like this. Hold on just a second. Okay. Write the following, these two, as fractions. Okay, pause. All right, here we go. I'm going to go through my steps. So step number 1 is to check my place value. Well, 0.29 I know is in the hundredths place. That's where it goes to. Okay, the decimal is my numerator. My decimal is 29, 29 here. Okay, the place value, hundredth, is my denominator, 29 over 100. There's no number to the left of the decimal point, so I've got just 29 hundredths. Last one here, 5.03 or 5 3/100ths. Well, I already see that I'm in the hundredths place. My numerator is that decimal number, it's a 3. I already said we're in the hundredths place. Oh, and guess what? There is a whole number to the left of the decimal point. That number is 5. So I get 5 3/100ths. I hope that went well for you. I really enjoy doing math like this. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. Now please go on Khan and make sure that you get at least a 75% before you're done with math for today. All right, my friends, we'll see you later. Bye.